that. The Super Eagles had a win over the weekend. I mean, it was over the, yes, just about the weekend there. It was an amazing feeling. Wiebe was there to see the game, and I'm blessed to have him join us on the show this beautiful morning on Power Solutions. Good morning, Wiebe.
Good morning, Collins. It's great to be here. I haven't been here for a while, so it's good to see you.
That's right.
Yeah, but I see you took out your blonde hair, so we're not matching anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that I should change that.
All right.
Just for a bit. I could go back to it.
All right.
How you doing, by the way?
I'm good. It's my third son's 13th birthday today, so it's a Nice day.
We mentioned that earlier on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, great, fantastic. So we're here again, Nigeria. We're bringing you another episode of Power Solutions. It's where we talk to the key players in the power sector doing something about the Nigeria's power problems. Power Solutions is brought to you in partnership with All On. That's Nigeria Info in partnership with All On. That's our energy investment company, which Wiebe represents highly. And today we have a special guest. He is, for those who have been following us on social media, perhaps have an idea of who our guest is. But he's none other than the Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, Lagos State, in person of Olalere, Odusote, joining us today, right, Wiebe?
Exactly. So good morning, Larry. It's good to have you on today. Can you hear us?
Loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay, fantastic. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. So good to have you on. I know you're incredibly busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time. So today, he's going to talk with the Honorable Commissioner is going to talk with us about what Lagos is trying to do to unlock the policy and regulation around power so that they can really focus on improving the power situation in Lagos. So it's one of the most important conversations we've had in a long time. So Larry, thanks for coming on, and let's just kick right in since we're already running into time. So you have 25 years of experience across the power and energy value chain in the U.S., the U.K., Nigeria, and so you came into this role as the Commissioner for Energy with incredible experience. So what made you decide to take that jump from all these years of private sector and then move into the public sector to serve in the way that you're doing? What prompted that? And maybe give a little bit about your background and then tell us what that journey was.
All right, let me try and start from Lagos State, and then I'll come around to where we are. If you know, Lagos State government has so far tried to intervene in the power sector over the years, starting first with the facilitation of the Enroad barges into Lagos to try and improve power supply, which didn't work so well. Then moving on to the development of 5 IPPs to supply power to Lagos State government facilities and take them off the grid. Now that worked. And then also intervening in providing street lights in Lagos, which is ordinarily the purview of the local governments. But Lagos State did it because they needed Lagos State citizens to feel safe at night. And then looking at the sector and saying, we've done a lot, but it hasn't quite done so much. And for us to be able to do a lot more, we need someone there with some experience in the power sector. You know, they say talk is cheap. I'm one of those who talk about the things that are wrong with the country. So when the call came from Mr. Governor, at that time, the candidate, to say, would you be willing to work in government to try and fix the problems here? It was easy to say yes, because to say no would have meant I'm one of those who just wants to sit on the sideline and continue to be an aloof critic. So I didn't want to do that. Now, I've worked in all parts of the value chain of the energy sector, from drilling upstream, working with Schlumberger, to managing about 1,800 megawatts of power plant maintenance in the UK and in the US, working for General Electric, to working on developing power infrastructure in Nigeria, and also working on evaluating the distribution companies and coming up with business plans for their growth and improvement while working at Owando and Stella. So for me, coming into the government just seemed like a natural next step because I could try to make a difference that way.
We're streaming live on Facebook, and for those who want to find us there, you know how to get there, Nigeria Info 99.3. But let me move on to also remind you that our focus today, like Wiebe mentioned, is unpacking the Lagos State electricity policy. Now, as the Honorable Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources in Lagos State, your mandate is to ensure that, the delivery of reliable energy to citizens and achieve energy security for the state. How do you think you have performed so far?
All right, so to answer that question, I'll also try and give a big background to everyone so that they understand what kinds of issues we're facing, so that when we start to talk about the solutions, it comes home to them. Mm-hmm. The power supply to Lagosians today come from 2 primary sources. One is the grid, and one is self-generation. So you're either getting power from the grid or you're generating your own power. Now, the power in Lagos is delivered today by the distribution companies, which are licensed by the federal government. The single bulk buy for electricity is also a federal government agency. That's the one that mandates the procurement of power for all of the distribution companies. The Rural Electrification Agency, also, which is in charge of rural electrification, is also a federal government agency. So lots of the interventions that the state government has done has been by dialogue, right? We've looked at it and decided that that's not enough. And we've decided to try and understand what the problem is and how we can solve it. We started this by putting together the development of an integrated energy resource plan in collaboration with the USAID, which we're just about rounding up. We've also then looked at the constitution to understand what Lagos state government is able to do in particular in the sector. We've started development of the Lagos state electricity policy, which will serve as a blueprint to provide a direction on the government's vision for achieving universal access to electricity in the state. Last year, we published a consultation paper in April. We had a consultation session also this year, and the Lagos State electricity law is being drafted. So we've done quite a bit, but we haven't done as much as we could have done had we had the enabling legislation in place, which we're currently trying to do. But in our limited capacity, the governor has also acquired 20,000 units of prepaid energy meters to be delivered to targeted low-income communities in Lagos, and also to be accompanied by distribution infrastructure rehabilitation funding, such that we can improve power supply to the low-income communities who would otherwise be overlooked by the commercially oriented private companies that are currently running the electricity network in Nigeria. We also, in a bid to try and see how we could improve the availability of meters, launched a smart meter hackathon. We wanted a local design and production of affordable meters. We launched this sometime last year. The event has been concluded. Winners have been selected. And in fact, about 2 weeks ago, they presented a prototype of their solution, the improved solution, to us. Now we're currently working with producers to see how we can mass produce these meters such that they're Nigerian meters produced in Nigeria for Nigerians. And then the problem of the metering gap, which we say is about 6 million today in Nigeria, can then start to be solved. We also started to look at a prioritized power program for hospitals, healthcare facilities in Lagos. The governor of Lagos, in his vision, even before COVID became evident, had said to us, look at the general hospitals in Lagos and see how you can improve power supply to them. And we've completed the power supply improvement for 10 of the general hospitals in the phase one. They've improved from an average of 10 hours a day to 22 hours a day of supply, such that when patients come in, there is a good chance that they can be attended to in a facility that's powered. We're also looking at developing an operations command and control center that's going to monitor all of the investments of Lagos State in real time, all the energy investments, meaning we're going to be looking at every single street light to ensure that they come on. And when they come on, we know they come on, we're better able to track them. It's going to be real-time monitoring. And at the end of the month, we're going to have an automatic printout of the availability of all of these street lights. So we're no longer depending on people looking at the street lights and then coming to report to us that they were working or they weren't working. So that's where we are with that. So there are other areas in the energy sector that we're looking at. We're looking at doing a new gas policy to improve the environment in Lagos. We're also looking at displacing kerosene and firewood and biomass burning in the homes.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot going on, and thanks for sharing all that. And I think one of the things you said early on in your answer was about that there are some limitations to what you can do right now because of how power is regulated in the country. And then you also mentioned about the energy policy, the electricity policy Lagos is designing, and that's actually going through a process already. And I know that most Lagosians probably don't know about this, that you guys are doing this great work in the background to almost uncouple and unlock Lagos from having sort of being dependent on what's happening at the federal level. So tell us a little bit more about this. I know it came out initially in April, May. There's been a lot of dialogue. We've been part of that as well, lots of stakeholders. And what's the process? Where are we now? And what will it mean for the sort of end user for power in Lagos in the next few years?
So today, power supply to Lagos is done on an allocation basis. So rather than how much power do you need in Lagos and let's try and get you that power, what we do is say how much power is being generated in the country and can we give 24 to 26% of that power to Lagos. We think that's not a sustainable way of encouraging improvement in industry in Lagos. 77% of Nigeria's industrial production comes from Lagos, so getting 24 to 26% of the power supply to us isn't working. And even if we're getting 77% of the power supplied in Nigeria for utilization in Lagos, it will still not be enough. So what we've said is we're going to look at it again. We've done the IRP, which is going to tell us what the sources are for power, what we can do to generate additional power, and also, like I may not have mentioned this, it's also part of the ongoing development or discussions. We're looking at how we can generate power inside Lagos, right? Both using off-grid solutions and looking at on-grid power sources as well. So the policy gives an insight into the thinking of Lagos State about the legal, the engineering, and the commercial frameworks required by the state to create a viable subnational electricity sector that will cater fully to the needs of the citizens. And this, we think, will then engender the significant economic growth and the development for the Lagos State and for the country at large. Now, remember, Lagos State is the gateway to Nigeria. So anything that's going to happen in Nigeria happens in Lagos as a matter of course. So if we can improve the situation in Lagos, we think by extension, we will be able to improve the situation in Nigeria.
Honorable Commissioner, Lagos State receives just about 1,000 megawatts for an average of no more than 12 hours daily. And that's about 12,000 megawatts are for a population of over 25 million. You know, how specifically would this, I think you talked a bit about how this policy would address this, but how specifically would this policy solve this problem?
So today the market is in Lagos.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the electricity consumption is in Lagos. And depending on who you ask, and there have been studies that have been carried out that say that in Lagos we have 15 gigawatts of own generation. Even if we assume that that includes redundancies, and we say that we need 7.5 gigawatts of power in Lagos, the total generation in the country is less than 4 gigawatts. So even if we get 100% of the allocation to Lagos, it's still not going to be enough. We believe that the best way to do that is to separate the Lagos market from the national market, which will then help us attract the investment that we need in distribution infrastructure, in metering, and then in additional generation. Because what we like to do is to follow the trail of the money. Now, in the electricity sector, that's looking at the customer side. So if I can get power to the customers and I can demonstrate that I'm able to deliver that power to the customer, then I can attract funding for additional generation as needed. If I can demonstrate that I have the infrastructure to supply 6 gigawatts to Lagosians, then I can demand for the investment in generation in Lagos. If I try and invest in generation without fixing the customer side, then I'm really just wasting my time. Nobody will come and invest. We've seen it already happen. We have stranded generation capacity in the country because there's no distribution and transmission capacity to take it there. So what we've done is to create a template market for Lagos, which will be owned and operated substantially by the private sector under a commercial framework, guided by the IRP and guided by state tariff methodology. We're not going to run away from that. The problem that everyone has said so far is that the tariffs are not cost recoverable. There's also a seeming lack of transparency. So if you say the tariffs are unrecoverable and we can't demonstrate that they're unrecoverable, then it becomes difficult for us to accept a higher tariff. And I think that's a problem that the customers have complained about. So when the organized sector start to complain about tariff increases and a lack of improvement in supply, we see that interplay happen. When we can demonstrate to them that we can fully supply everyone, then they'll accept the tariff increase. I think when they see the roadmap, they'll be happier with it.
Yeah, so Honorable Commissioner, I mean, the figure that's been going around is that you're trying to create a 5.2 trillion naira electricity market. Obviously, as an investor, we're investors. That's incredibly attractive. It's going to attract a lot of other investors. But at the same time, in spite of the fact that there's all that capital in the sector, the public's view is still often that power is a social sector, a social service, and that paying for power from the grid is somehow something people shouldn't do. How do you break that mentality? I mean, Lagos obviously is a very much more commercially oriented than many states, but it's still a pretty strong mentality here. How do you break that so that when people are paying their power bills, they're realizing that it's paying that bill that actually makes it possible to invest in providing reliable power?
I'll say this. If I don't have power, then I don't want to pay for it. If I need a resource, and several World Bank studies have gone to show that people will pay for services that they get. People are more inclined to pay for it. Now, the natural human instinct is to try and get away with as much as you can. So if I don't have to pay for power, I don't want to pay for it. But when it becomes obvious, right? Because today, if you look at it, even the people who are better past my neighbors still have to invest in buying those generators. They have to invest in fueling them. In some cases, we've seen instances where neighbors are contributing to buy fuel for somebody else's generator so that they can use it together. So people are already paying today. And if you're not paying for it, then you're not getting it for the most part. So I think that mindset of power is a social service has gone away without us even realizing it. People are paying for power. And if you're not paying for it, you're not getting it. For the most part, there are 26 million Lagosians. Half of them, or 31% of them, are connected to the grid. The others are either doing without, or they're paying through their nose for it with this auto generation facility infrastructure that they have to develop. So everybody has their own power plant at the back of their house, and they know how much they pay for that power. So if power comes from the grid, all you expect really is a significant discount, and we think we can make that happen, rather than say that. And I think that mindset has changed.
Okay.
And from all the neighborhoods that we've gone to talk about it, yes, they would like to have free power, but they understand that if they have to pay for it, then they will pay for it.
Right.
Dear listener, you're listening to Nigeria Info, and we're on Power Solutions, brought to you by Nigeria Info in partnership with Allon. We have the Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources of Lagos State talking to us, or let's say unpacking the Lagos State electricity policy. And my next question to you, Commissioner, is that is Lagos State working with the NERC, REA, you mentioned REA earlier, and other federal government agencies on this electricity policy? And will there be harmonization of the already existing federal government policies?
Oh, certainly we are. We believe in a collaborative work environment. So we're in discussions with NERC. They were invited to all of the consultations that we've done. The Rural Electrification Agency are also partners of ours. And I think we believe that they understand that Lagos State needs to move. They don't have a problem in principle with Lagos State trying to create an institution that helps Lagos State improve its power supply. So in principle, they don't have a problem with it, but the devil is always in the details. We'll work through those issues when we get there. We've also been clear about the constitutional framework. We have not shied away from letting them know that the National Assembly is allowed to make laws for the Federation with respect to electricity, generation and transmission of electricity to parts of the Federation and from one state to another. It's also clear that the State House of Assemblies may make laws for the state with respect to generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. It was clearly and deliberately left out of the remit of the National Assembly, the laws regarding to pertaining to distribution of electricity, and everybody has seen that. And all of the discussions and cases that have gone to the federal government, to the Courts of Appeal and the Supreme Court so far have been decided in favor of the letter of the Constitution. So we're not really concerned. They have lawyers who work with them, and we're in discussions with them. So we believe that we're on the same page.
All right, so Honorable Commissioner, I mean, we're unfortunately running out of time soon, but we still have a few minutes. The very important question I wanted to ask is, you mentioned there's about 15,000 megawatts in Lagos that's self-generated, and obviously when you say the statistic to anyone outside Nigeria, they're baffled. They just can't believe this. But a lot of that is from diesel generation. So what in the policy is there going to be to kind of try and migrate us in the energy transition towards cleaner fuels, and then also obviously to renewables? What is the policy kind of saying about that aspect as well, the source of the energy?
Oh, brilliant! So that's an important part of it. Now, Lagos is an ecologically vulnerable state, right? Lagos is also the largest state in Nigeria. Lagos also has the highest population in Nigeria, and also has the.
Well, are you there?
Lagos is 0.4% of Nigeria's landmass. So we have a serious problem with trying to ensure that our people stay out of our hospitals. And if you look at the number of people who go into the hospital with respiratory illnesses, then you know that the hospitals are overwhelmed by those sorts of cases, or at least they devote an inordinate amount of resources to those sorts of cases, and we'd like to move them away. So we're trying to ensure that the policy incentivizes the move to cleaner fuels. The way to do that is to ensure the availability of those cleaner fuels, and we're working with independent gas suppliers in Lagos to ensure that they can come here. We also understand that the grid is not able to supply the power that is needed by everybody so far, so people are still constrained to use their auto generation capacities. So what we're trying to do is move those capacities away from diesel to cleaner fuels, LPG, gas, etc. We're working with the federal government also on their gas expansion program to ensure that Lagos State is a viable market for that. So there will be incentives for people to move away from diesel embedded in the policy, and there will also be encouragements for people to move to gas. So we're doing that for two reasons. One is to clean the environment, and also to make it cheaper for them to continue their businesses.
Olalere Odusote, I must say it's been a great time listening to you talk about this thing. But quickly, before we run away, what is the plan? You know, the timeline for stakeholders' engagement through the process of this Lagos policy?
The intention is to publish the policy in the third quarter of this year and to pass a law by the fourth quarter of the year. The intention then is to start to engage with the players in the sector to ensure that the Lagos State electricity market is fully defined by December of next year. And then there will be a migration of licenses on a timeline to be discussed. So the licenses will be migrated from there to the Lagos State regulatory agency. And we're not going to be creating any shocks to the system beyond the migration. We'll then be encouraging them, right, to participate within the market with a view to encouraging additional investments in the sector. We think that by looking at Lagos State alone as a regulator, we can work better with them to determine the tariffs that are better. We can work better with them to determine the sorts of supports that they need. For example, they've complained, some of the players in the sector have complained about their inability to get their to get the customers to pay up their debts. We'll be working very closely with them to ensure that they're able to do that. I mean, we had a law in the past that contained the Power Rangers, which was supposed to be to help them ensure that customers pay up their debts and that they remain viable. We will be reactivating that in the new law to ensure that again, the people who work in Lagos are bound by contract laws.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner. This has been fantastic, and I know that the listeners in Lagos have learned a lot. And I just like the way you talk, because you're talking about third quarter, fourth quarter. There's a law by next year. So everything is very clear, and this is very ambitious, and it's something that we can see a serious solution that will be in place very quickly. So thank you so much for this, for going out on a limb, and kind of taking this very difficult step so that Lagos can now provide the power that the people need.
Well, that's
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. That's it for Power Solutions today. Next week we'll be here again with another guest and another topic today. We hope that we've been able to unpack the Lagos State electricity policy. Join us again next week for another episode. It was brought to you by Nigeria Info in partnership with All On. And I've done this with Wiebe, Boer.
All right. Thanks a lot, Collins. Thanks a lot, Larry. And everyone have a great week.
My name is Collins.
Teke.
Thank you.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info.